Welcome back, one and all, to PodStance, the PunkStance Podcast. It's me once again doing a very quick introduction because this one gets a little bit longer than the usual one. If you were listening to the last episode of this specific show, not the one prior to this, which was the brand new episode of Release Radar, I thoroughly recommend you listen to that as well. It's a brand new show that I've introduced to this the PodStance name, as it were. So do give that a little look if you're into ska and the general 90s vibes and that kind of thing. But the episode before that of Albums That Saved My Life, I obviously had Laura Carter, a friend and colleague of mine, and she made a slight reference to her fiancé, Aaron. And turns out he's quite a big fan of the show and wanted to come on. So this episode has got Mr. Aaron Freeman doing his specific album as well. It's amazing how quick that the word gets around that you're doing stuff like this. But no, it was a great conversation. He was a really nice guy. Obviously, I've known Laura for a fair while, so it was only a matter of time before I met Aaron. And he's a really lovely guy and is very passionate about the album in question. More specifically, the artist and the history behind the album. You'll find out as we go along specifically what he'll be talking about. But let's just say it's an Oasis album, but it's not the Oasis album you're thinking of. I think when I went into it, and he obviously he's a big Oasis fan, but I was like, I wonder which of the albums he's going to do. And in my head, it could have only been two of them. Turns out, neither of them. So whoever was thinking the same as me, you're in for a treat. So I'm gonna sit back. You guys can sit back, enjoy this one with Aaron Freeman, and yeah, I'll see you on the other side. Yeah, but Laura, I don't know exactly how you came about doing this. I know Laura did it. Did she just come back and go, I did this thing? Ah!
No, she said she was doing it. She said to me that she was like, oh yeah, this is what I've got planned. I'm going to do ABBA. And I was just like, of course you are. And I was like, there's so many other bands you could do. She was like, no, it's definitely my favourite. I was like, right, okay. So then, yeah, then when she done it and then you put it out, we then listened to it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, right, okay, I get it now. And that's when she said, are you going to do it? And I was just like, yeah, if Nick wants me to do it, I'll do it. So, yeah, and then I was like thinking about who to do. But yeah, I think I've gone for this one for the right reasons.
Now, it's interesting, though, because of the band's albums, this is not the one I thought you'd pick.
No.
Because two of them are considered some of the greatest British albums to have ever been.
And I've got the tattoo on my leg.
Well, there you go.
But I haven't gone for that one purely because, and the first two I've not gone for Definitely Maybe or What's the Story Morning Glory, because there are songs on there that I could definitely like skip. I mean, I've got, when it comes to, I use Amazon Music. When it comes to Amazon Music, I've got everything on there, and I've pretty much got Oasis's whole back catalogue downloaded. Like, everything is on there. That I think there's probably maybe two like songs missing just because I don't know, I've just not re-listened and liked them for whatever reason. But I've got a CD player, I've got the actual CDs. If I was to put them on and play them, I could definitely skip like one or two songs. Like none more so than like say Wonderwall or Don't Look Back in Anger, because I'm just a bit like
I've heard them so
too many times, and you know, people say about memories and things and that, but you know, I've got great memories of Wonderwall because of Liam doing it at gigs that are going to Nebworth and things like that. But you know, it's just, yeah, it's so common and almost overplayed, so I'm a bit like, nah, not too sure. But Standing on the Shoulder of Giants is, every single song in there is elite, you know, for me anyway, for someone that really likes music. I don't, there's a lot of people that won't even know some of the songs in there. But I think it's clear now that people are starting to sort of venture in, and, you know, now that Noel and Liam are split doing their own things, Roll It Over that's in there is an absolute tune. Six like minutes long, over 6 minutes long. And I sit there and listen to it, and I was listening to it before, I say before anyone else, but I mean, like, you know, I was listening to it before they sort of started becoming big again. And now he's put it back into his own, like, into his set list for when he's doing his solo tours and that. And it's like, you know, he done it at Nebworth, we was there, and I was just like, this is nuts. This is actually crazy. But, you know, whereas, like, yeah, your Wonderwalls and all that, everyone sings along to it. Like, no one was singing along to this. And I was just like, I'm actually really glad, because I can just hear it live. No one's going to be, like, getting in the way, singing over it, that sort of thing. Apart from me. I was the only person singing over him. But that was fine, because I could hear it, and I could hear myself and hear him. So I very much enjoyed that. But, yeah, it's definitely it's an out there pick, but I'd say it's the right one.
It is quite out there, but it's a unique pick. specifically to you, especially if you're one person in a crowd singing one song.
Pretty much.
Bring the whole house down if you had the voice for it. Everyone else would be around you just going, God, this man, how does he know the whole back catalogue?
Literally, just that's just the way I see it is I like the idea of being different and away from everyone else. You know, like I listen to Radio X almost religiously now, Monday to Friday when I'm in the truck. That's just what I'm listening to. Fully enjoy it, but there's so many songs that come out. Like a really like weird one. We done a Christmas quiz at my mum's. I think it was on Christmas Eve, or Christmas Day, in fact. And one of the questions was, I think it was 2009. What band stopped X Factor from getting Christmas #1? And it was like, Rage Against the Machine.
I was just going to say, is it Rage Against the Machine?
It was, yeah. And I was just like, there is no way I would have known that without Radio X. But because of that, that's where my, I branch out very much. And so again, I think that's why I've gone sort of off-piste with choosing this album. But yeah, as I say, the main reason is I can sit and happily sit, and listen to every single song on there and just go, know all the words, know how it's sung, and there's like 50 minutes there of pure like goodness that I'm gonna just sit through. If someone said to me, you want to go for a run, all right, I'll go for a run. I'll put that on because I'm actually not going to be trying to keep slapping my ear, skipping everything in the AirPods. So yeah, definitely this one.
Oh, bro! I mean, what you mentioned, roll it over at the end.
Yeah.
Is that a favourite song, or do you have another one in there that is the one that really sticks out to you?
I like Little James on there as well. So this one was where Liam actually did a bit of co-writing on it. It was one of the first times, and he done Little James on there, and that was about his stepson. I think it was his Patsy Kensit's son, James, I think. So yeah, so he wrote that. That's a really good song. It's Liam on vocals, and it's Liam that sung it. It's just quite a really easy listen. Everyone sees Liam as different things. There's like songs that he's done where, say, Wonderwall's really traditional British, and everyone knows how to sing it. It's not his really raspy voice, but Roll It Over is something that's really raspy, and it's really deep, and he's putting like everything into it. Little James again is very a bit more chill. It's chilled out voice. It's not about anything bad in the world. It's a good world song sort of thing. The first song, Fucking in the Bushes, it's a great
no messing about that title.
Yeah, literally no, there's not, but there's no vocal on it whatsoever, which is like, I like the idea of it. The first song is like almost nothing to do with Oasis, bar just them playing guitar. So for that first nearly 3.5 minutes, Liam can just be sat on stage having a fag, or I think back in the day when it first come out, he would just wander around with a pint in his hand, just taunting the crowd because he wanted them to rile everyone up. So yeah, the only vocal in it, I think there's three different vocals, or definitely two. One of them is the first part as soon as it starts. It's from Isle of Wight Festival pre-2000. And yeah, it was a big thing about them. I can't remember exactly who it was. It's on Wikipedia. I know that. But yeah, it's them, whoever the person was. He was like taunting the crowd saying, we put this festival on for you. I won't say, already have with the title, but so yes, I think it is free. So here's one first. There's then a woman singing it, not singing in it, talking in it, and then there's another guy as well. But yeah, that's a really good one. But it's as much as it's Oasis, it's not. It then goes into Go Let It Out, which again is Liam plays acoustic guitar on it, which was like unheard of probably up until that point. He never really done much, but that's a good song. That was a single that was released. Who Feels Love? That was a little bit different for me. That's quite out there. This is what I mean. I could go through every single song and just, talk about how all of them are really good. Who Feels Love was a bit different. Like it's got like almost an Indian.
Well, that's exactly in my notes what I've written down. So it's got an Indian influenced sound. But there's a few songs in there that are completely different to what people know about Oasis. I think, like, was it Gas Panic is very sort of progressive rock.
Yeah.
And then the Indian influence. Like, is it the fact that it's so out of their usual scene, for lack of a better phrase, that really draws you into it?
Yeah, in a way. And I think with, as I say, having Liam writing a song on there, that's different. Liam playing acoustic guitar, that's different. You then got Noel singing on there. Does two. He co-sings on "Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is," and then he does "Sunday Morning Call," which, I think that at that point it was Noel finding his voice. I think by this album he was having like singing lessons, because when they first started in '94, he couldn't sing. He could not sing. And, when he'd do any kind of vocals on like a chorus part, or, there was certain tours where Liam either done a runner because he was high, or they'd had a falling out or anything like that, and Noel tried to cover it. Everyone was just so almost disappointed and was just like, this isn't Oasis. Noel standing to the left of Liam with a guitar, and Liam there, just belting it out, and just most of the time not either A, not remembering the words, or B, changing the lyrics up for whatever reason. That's what people knew Oasis for. But, Noel coming in, sort of changing it by, singing on it, letting Liam have a song on the album. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I feel like it was maybe a filler album in a way. I think after the first three, all the other albums were just sort of like, where they swapped out the guitarist and the drummer and stuff. I mean, Noel, when it comes to recording this, Noel literally done everything.
Well, it was Heathen Chemistry after that as well, and I think by that point, the whole band itself was sort of splitting at the seams anyway. So this was maybe the last one that they seemed properly sort of in collusion, as it were. Pretty
much, yeah. I mean, as I say, Noel done all the guitar on everything and bass. He didn't do he couldn't play drums, or he probably kind of can, but it wasn't him on drums. By this point, they'd got rid of Tony McCarroll, I think. He was gone, and so he was only getting people in to do drums when it was sort of needed. I say Liam on the vocals. I mean, there's so many videos of like Liam doing vocals, being given the lyrics, and just he listens to like the guitar and the drums and that, and he's like, right, okay, yeah, I know how I'm going to sing it, and that's it. And it was always one take, like Champagne Supernovas, not on the album, but it was a famous one for how Liam just went in first take and absolutely killed it, done unbelievable on it. And then from that point on, it was it's probably Oasis's third biggest song, behind Wonderwall first and Don't Look Back in Anger second. Annoyingly,
is it Champagne Supernova that you and Laura have a particular
connection
to? I believe she mentioned.
I don't know why, it's just kind of become our sort of song.
Well, for reference, I'll say you are the Aaron that Laura mentioned in her episode.
I am that Aaron. Yes, that is
just
me.
In case people wonder what the relation is.
Yeah, so it's something that sort of we've connected on. I mean, when it comes to Laura's a few years older than me, and she was sort of she was born 94, so when Oasis first sort of started out, and so she's always known about Oasis, whereas I kind of, obviously, as I was growing up, I was born 99, so they'd already done all their big stuff. Like, now they was just keeping the name afloat and just seeing what else they could sort of make out of it, which was mainly money, and secondly, sort of, putting on shows and stuff for the people, tours. That's what it's for, and I think that's still what it would be about now. If they were to come back, it would only be for the people. Would it be for the money? Yes, more than yes. Definitely for Noel. I think Noel is very much a money-driven person, but he's really talented, and what he's doing, like with the High Flying Birds, is unreal. Liam's publicly come out and said, "I'll do it for free," but he just wants to get back together for the fans. So it'd be an interesting one. But yeah, so Laura's got Champagne Supernova tattooed on her, which is, she says, for me. I'm going to say it is. But yeah, so yeah, when we sort of met and we were friends first, so then we started, getting to know what music we both liked, and it turned out we liked a lot of the same stuff. I don't like ABBA, just putting it out there for reference. Can't stand it, in fact.
Important to mention. Yeah. I believe she mentioned it herself.
Yeah, it's really not my bag. But Oasis definitely, and so because I knew all of the back catalogue of Oasis and their whole all their songs, I was like introducing her to songs that they've done that she didn't know. I was like, oh, this is really good, and I'm like, it is really good. And this is why you need to like broaden your horizons to it. And I mean, it's really easy to do with like so many bands, you know, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, all these bands that have just got so many albums, and it's, you sort of go through it and go, oh, you know, actually that one is better than their main one. I mean, Black Sabbath, another one where you know, they had an album ready to go, but they needed a few more songs on it, and what was just meant to be a filler ended up being the biggest and probably their most successful song. So yeah, that's how we sort of ended up getting connected. Was almost like she knew and was growing up with them and them starting off big, and I was just like, they're finished, I've now heard everything, this is what I know. So yeah, I think that's how we started. But Champagne Supernova in particular is, yes, our song, I suppose you could say.
Well, it's so weird with this album because tonally and thematically it is, as you say, very out there, very different to what they're usually affiliated with, like the sort of Britpop scene that they got involved with, started up and sort of shot into popularity.
Oasis versus Blur, mainly.
Well, we can move straight onto that because that's another thing I've written down. You're obviously going to be on the Oasis side.
I mean,
this is the album that you're talking about.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
This is the thing. I think I'm a bit like you in that I like them both, but I'm slightly more Oasis than Blur, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, back in, you know, 96, when it was really sort of going off, I guess is the only way you could say it. It was almost very much, it was almost London versus Manchester. And Manchester, or Manx, I call them Manx because that's what they were known as, the Manx. Manchester, people who live in Manchester, grew up in Manchester, Salford, you know, all around there, are very much, you know, or at that time, they were very much, we stand with our Mancunians.
As you would.
Naturally. People in London that were Blur, I think, were doing the same thing, but, you know, there is no way that they didn't like both. Whereas I do believe that Mancunians 100% were like, no, don't like Blur. It's London versus Manchester, we're with Oasis. But no, I really like a lot of Blur songs. But I'm not as dedicated to listening to all of Blur's stuff as I am to Oasis. I like now that Blur are coming back, and you know the album they've just done.
I still need to listen to that.
Unreal.
Is it good?
Really, really good album.
Put it on my list.
The Narcissist, which was I think that was the first song they brought out, is unreal. I think they've released two singles from it, and I'm pretty sure The Narcissist was the first one. Such a good song. And you know, and again, this new album of Blur's is definitely different because Damon's a bit more his vocals sort of, instead of it just being, you know, like country house park life, it's very direct, and you don't always get, you know, the what he's got in his voice. He's a lot different to what he was when he was younger, basically. And I say, obviously, what he done with Gorillaz as well was really good. I rate him highly as a musician. He's so talented. But, you know, when you're looking at Noel's current stuff, Liam's current stuff, I think they everyone's going with the times. You know, in terms of, like, I mean, Liam used to slate Noel because Noel's stuff was all really, like, it sounded so spaced out and astrological, and he used to, like, take the piss out of him, basically, because he'd be like, it's not what we was about, it's not what Oasis was about, it's too different, I'm not a fan of it. And Noel was just like, well, if you're not a fan of it, I'm going to keep doing it because that's even funnier. Like, Noel got someone to play the scissors.
I saw this. I remember seeing the footage of that. I was like,
so funny.
There was always this joke going around. It's like, he'll never make them. He'll never do it. And
yeah.
It was like, I can't remember where he was playing. I thought it was Glastonbury, but I don't think it was that big. I think it was an internal.
It was. I mean, no. The High Flying Birds are like, there's so many people in it now. It's ridiculous. And obviously, when he does certain recordings, he gets people in for it all the time who aren't actually part of the High Flying Birds. But I believe he was doing some form of auditioning from the story I think that I've seen. And yeah, there was Liam taking the biscuit and saying, oh, next thing he's going to get someone on the scissors, you know, that's where his music's going, and I'm just not here for it. I'm glad we weren't doing that with Oasis. And yeah, he started auditioning, and some woman came up to him and said, oh, I play the scissors. I think she played a couple other things, and he went, yep, like, that's it, you're hired. And so a woman stands there just with some scissors just going in and out. And, you know, I think she still does it on certain songs, but his music now is just as good as the first album he brought out. You know, I like all of it. I've got all of his albums, got all of Liam's solo albums. But yeah, so Noel went very different with his stuff. I think he went down the road that he wanted to go down when he knew he could now sing, essentially. And he did sort of start doing that as well with Oasis, but, you know, Oasis was very much just a bass, a guitar, drums and vocals, whereas now, yeah, he's got so many different things on it. Whereas Liam is still very much the stuff Liam's making now. You know, it's. I mean, there's still members of Oasis with him. Bonehead's still with him. He gets people from that they sort of were around with when they were doing saxophone and backing vocals, brass band, stuff like that. He gets them back on quite often. You know, High Flying Birds now as well. I've got I think Jem Archer's with him now, and Alan White, I think, is with him as well on the drums. Or he might have been. I might have got that wrong somewhere. But it just shows that, you know, as much as they're not Oasis, the pair of them still definitely are. I say that the music Liam puts out is very much what Oasis would put out. Noel's stuff is very much what he always wanted to do, but it's with Oasis band members.
Yeah.
Essentially. But yeah, I'm glad they're not back together in one way. You know, as a fan that likes going to gigs and things like that, 100% I want it to happen. But for the music that the pair of them are making, it's just, yeah, it's out of this world. I've got tickets going to see Liam on the Definitely Maybe tour, 30th anniversary.
God, that's this year, isn't it?
Yeah, this year, yeah. So, yeah, it was come out in 94, so I'm seeing him in, I think it's July at O2, at the O2. So, yeah, got tickets for that. And then I've seen Liam, how many times have I seen him? First time I seen him was in 2019, I think it was. I seen him back to back 2 nights in a row. I bought tickets for, I think it was like the Friday night, and then friends of mine, a stepson and father, as it were, Minty, the father, hurt his back really bad, couldn't go. Lewis was quite young at the time, but he still wanted to go, so he literally said, take Lewis, there's a free ticket there. So I went and see him 2 nights in a row. Nice. Which was great. So one night I was able to get drunk, the second night I stayed sober and actually listened to it all through, and it was really good. Then I see Liam at Nebworth. I was meant to see both nights again, but it was a complete write-off the second day. Couldn't walk, I was in bits, it was so bad. So yeah, I only see him the one time, which was really good. And then I see Noel at Brighton on the Beach.
Oh, nice.
Which was good. And, you know, again, it was all the mix of things. Liam done Oasis songs. I mean, I say Roll It Over. Liam done at Nebworth, and I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, he said he was going to do it. Wasn't sure if he was going to. He'd done it, and I was just like, class, 6 minutes of perfection.
Do they play a lot of Standing on the Shoulder of Giants out when they're, you know, if they're doing old Oasis songs, there's not really the kind of catalogue that would bring them out.
No, exactly. So Fucking in the Bushes is always on Liam's, it's the starting song to Liam's thing. So it comes on, as soon as that's played, you know Liam's about to come on and start. It's great, you know, and he walks out, and it's exactly how it was back when they done Wembley and Main Road. They come out to it, and it's class. Noel doesn't do it. Go Let It Out, I really think now, I don't think I've heard Liam do, he might have done it at Nebworth actually.
Do they flow into each other quite well?
On this album, yes. When it comes to live, Liam's more, I mean, when I see him at the O2, both nights at the O2, he went, after every song it went dark, just went pitch black, and it was just like right, reset. Whereas for Nebworth, obviously it was pitch black for half of it anyway, because it was going into nighttime. But it was the same thing, it was just the noise of the crowd was way more, and Liam does a little bit of talking, and it's more about the songs or cracking jokes and stuff. No, all of Noel's stuff is interaction with the crowd, like actually talking to someone, a little bit of bantering, things like that. They're 2 very different acts, but at the same time, just work so well for the pair of them. Who Feels Love? I think I haven't seen that live. Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is, they've not done because it was too much of a mix. I think because Noel was also on vocals then. They've not done that. Little James, no. Gas Panic, yes. Liam done that. the 2 nights at the O2. Really, really good. I don't think he done it at Nebworth. Where Did It All Go Wrong is Noel's song. I don't think he's done that. Sunday Morning Call will never ever be played again because Noel hates it. He is fuming with himself that it's out there. I don't know why. I think it's a really good song, but he don't like it, so that's that. It will never be played. I Can See a Liar is very, very different. It's very much it's Beatles-esque. It's really upbeat Beatles-esque. Just the way they used to. If you've seen the documentary on the Beatles, it was all just sat round in a circle, just putting words together and seeing how it went. It's very similar to that. I think I Can See a Liar, that song. But I really like it, but I don't think it's out there live. I say Roll It Over, Liam Dunn at Nebworth. I hope he does it more as well as time goes on, but don't know. And then last one, which was a Japanese bonus track. No idea why it was, but Oasis were really big in Japan at the time. Great tune, Let's All Make Believe. Unreal tune, so good. Don't think that's played very often, if at all. But yeah, I like that one as well.
It's awfully divisive. I didn't know that thing about Sunday Morning Call. I had no idea that Noel absolutely despises it.
Yeah, hates it. Don't know why. Don't know what he reads into it more than anyone else. It's very chilled out. There's natural sounds in it. I think like at the end you've got, I think it's like the sea and some like crickets playing it like as it ends. It's just a really good chilled sort of tune, which I really like. I can't remember exactly what I only read this all quite recently, to be fair, but I think it was because it was in a recent interview Noel had. But yeah, he said it was just it was a filler because he had to put it together. And I thought it was a really good one. He don't like it. What can you do? We won't hear it again.
It's strange because you said that as a fan, you would like them to come back together, and create more music and do more gigs. And then other than that, you like the music they're doing separately. Do you have an opinion on them just on the split itself? Because no one really knows why exactly they don't like each other, besides the fact that they're related and have brothers. I would know.
Yeah.
But I remember it was 2017 when there was the Manchester attack, and everyone said this would be what was it called? The
One was it One Love or
One Love concert?
Or something like that.
And everyone said this is if they don't come back at this in Manchester,
they never will. No.
What did you think that they might possibly?
I did think they would. I thought this was, Liam loves Manchester. He was always going to be, they both moved down to London. But Liam always goes back. Or Peggy still lives there. That's Liam and Noel, and Paul's their brother. Peggy is their mum. She still lives in the same house that they were raised in, by their mum. And he goes back regularly. Liam's close with Paul. Paul does a lot of photography for Liam. Noel, you don't hear much about Noel going back. But so yeah, at the time I thought this is the opportunity that, it's the best way to do it, and they will make millions if they do it at this point. Liam came out, iconic, utterly iconic, so good. But yeah, Noel was I believe he was in Ibiza, as far as I'm aware.
Typical fashion.
Yeah, no idea why, because he doesn't do party or anything. I guess it was just, that was what they said, he was in Ibiza, so that was that. So yeah, he was never going to be there. I guess some people knew, other people didn't. They've had other opportunities as well. As I say, 30th anniversary this year. Noel was asked by Liam, I think it was more the management teams, because they still don't. I think they've only just recently got each other's numbers through management, probably because of all of this. But the pair of them have come out to the media and both said, my people will talk to his people. Liam, and that's Noel saying that. Liam comes and says, I just want to talk to him, he's my brother. But then Liam loves Twitter. Always, bantering with the fans on there, talking to the fans, just saying silly things, but it's funny. But yeah, he goes on there and says, he's a potato. And the little man, he always has a dig at him. It's always going to be like that, and it is brotherly. I think it's Liam's side of it is brotherly banter. Noel's side of it is he's a see you next Tuesday and I don't want anything to do with him. I don't think they will come back together now. I think, Noel knows how well he's doing. Liam knows how well he's doing. Liam's putting together an album now with John Squire, which, Just Another Rainbow, which has just come out, is an absolute belter of a song. It's Stone Roses music with Liam's vocals, and it's class. It's so good. I've seen Stone Roses live as well. Their penultimate gig at Wembley was so good. But yeah, I think now I'd love to see it for the gigging purpose, but in terms of how lucky we are at the moment with all the stuff that they're bringing out, that's why I'd probably not be too bothered.
You don't want to jeopardise that.
Yeah, I mean, you hear things like TikTok's a wonderful world, and everyone is making AI things, and there's so many songs that Noel has done where they've put Liam's vocal onto it, and it's very good. It's very, very good.
It's interesting you say that because I'm currently wearing my Breezer long sleeve, who are the guys that did the Oasis thing on YouTube.
Yeah,
and they've since released their album last year, which was my favourite. Tonight of Theirs was my favourite song of that year.
Yeah,
and they're obviously heavily influenced by Oasis.
Yeah,
but yeah, I've seen a lot of those AI ones. Especially, I've had a chat with that band themselves, and they've talked about it.
Oh, mad!
And yeah, they've had a lot of success from that. But it just goes to show the broad appeal and just how influential as a band they are.
Oh, massively. I mean, there's so many like new and upcoming bands out and about. A big one. I say a big one because they've now done Glastonbury. They're one of the only bands to their first 2 albums go number 1. Is a band called the Lathams. I went and see them about, I don't know, in Brighton, I think that was 2019 as well, maybe. And there was like 250 people, I think, in there. It was in Patterns, in Brighton, a nightclub. And they were so good. And, when I found out about them, my brother actually introduced them to me and said, I've got a ticket for this band. It was a tenner. Do you want to come? And I was like, yeah, all right. What sort of songs do they play? And he was like, they've got some of their stuff. They do a couple. They do like an Oasis cover. They do a few other covers as well. And my brother said, like, they sound like the Smiths and Oasis, and they've just got their own influence on things. And I was like, yeah, I'm up for that. Went and see them, and now they are next level, like, really getting big. As I say, I think the only other bands that have done it on their first 2 albums are, I think, Arctic Monkeys and the Beatles, and there's one other band, and I can't remember who it is. So they're really big and upcoming, and that's just one influence. You've got, there's a few other bands, Affleck's Palace, they're another band coming up heavily influenced by Oasis. There's a few that I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't, there's even ones that are just like, even single players. Dylan John Thomas, I think, is another one, but he said he likes Oasis. Jerry Cinnamon is another one who said, like, he's now huge, and he said he was influenced by Oasis, and he's come out of nowhere, and now gone back into hiding, as he does, and he's come back out again to headline with Liam at Transmit Festival, I think. Which is Glasgow, Scotland, where he's from, so it makes sense. But yeah, the influence that they've had is massive. And, this album, like, in particular, isn't one that's highly spoke about, but it was still a number 1 album. And that just proves that even though there wasn't too much to it, they still hit number 1. I think it's double platinum in the UK. It's big, and I think that's why a lot of people follow them, and their style. And, they had to follow other people. They followed Stone Roses, they followed the Beatles, they was all things are put on. The Smiths, Johnny Marr and Liam are like, Johnny Marr and Noel are really close. Paul Weller and the Jam, all the stuff. Everyone's got their influences. Unless you're going back to, like, I don't know if the Rolling Stones ever had any influences. I can't imagine they did, because they were the first of their time and era. So I can't think there was many people that they followed, but it worked really well. And now they're like in their late 70s and early 80s still putting out fantastic albums. Hackney Diamonds is unreal, and the voice that he's got on it is so good. So yeah, I'm glad that there are people following in their footsteps.
Yeah, it seems like Britpop as a genre seems to be your all-encompassing genre. It seems like the one, because I mean, what I wrote down was like, are there any other Britpop artists that come close to Oasis, and I know that Laura mentioned that I should at least talk about the Stone Roses a little bit, but you've already brought them up, so I don't even have to.
Yeah, they. I don't think Stone Roses would class themselves as Britpop, but it was certainly, again, it was that earlier era. They were, influencers to Oasis and Blur, I'd say. But yeah, the Stone Roses in general were just such a good band. Another band that was hit with splitting up because of just the way they were and the things that they done. Iconic. They went and I can't remember who they were signed to. Whoever they were signed to, they went round to his house and trashed it with paint.
Really?
Yeah. Stone Roses. Yeah, that was one of the first things they done. They all got arrested. I'm pretty sure it was the guy's house or his offices. But yeah, they went there with paint cans and just chucked it everywhere. So the iconic picture is the four of them covered in paint, which they use for an album cover or a single cover.
I didn't realise that was a crime.
That was a crime that the Stone Roses done. Yeah, but yeah, that kick-started them off. But that's where that was how Liam sort of came to find music, was at Stone Roses gig. Noel was a roadie within Spiral Carpets, come back and went to his mum. Oh, where's Liam? Oh, he's practicing with his band. And I was like, what? I go on tour with Spiral Carpets for 9 months, how long he was gone for, comes back, and Liam, who apparently didn't have a musical bone in his body, is singing for a band. Noel goes down to, I think they was at a local hall or something, practicing, and Noel's like, yeah, this is actually really good. And Liam goes, oh, will you be our manager? And I was like, yeah, all right. And he said, oh, I'll do you one more because I've been writing songs for ages. I'll help you out. And that's when he jumped on guitar and things like that. So there are so many influences back then. The saying Spiral Carpets have got some really good songs. Saturn V is a really good song. Trying to think other Mock Turtles as well. They're another good band come out. Seahorses. I think Seahorses are a little bit older again, so maybe they're not Britpop. Doves are kind of newish, but they were Britpop era. Again, loads of influences, new ones at the moment. I say new, but still kind of about Pigeon Detectives, Catfish and the Bottlemen.
Yeah.
Great band, out of nowhere. We all thought they were done, and now they're back. They might be doing Transmit or something, I think, or Reading. I think they're doing Reading and Leeds. But yeah, there's just there are so many, and as I say, Radio X is a massive influence for me. In terms of just all the bands that are on there, and it branches out because I think when it comes to listening to the radio, you've got to have quite a lot of patience because of adverts. Because of, can you stand certain DJs on there? Radio X is Chris Moyles, all hail Chris Moyles almost, because XFM turns to Radio X and they put Chris Moyles on the big screen, and all of a sudden, he's the face of it pretty much, and loads of people can't stand him, general public and celebrities, but the music that they sort of, he always introduces the record of the week, and it's always a brand new song that's come out. So the one that's just last week's one, or still this week's one, is the Black Keys. Put a brand new album out, or new single, and they're coming out with an album. Last week was Liam and John Squire. They say they put the Lathams on there. Loads of bands in it, and that's where it all comes back again. Arctic Monkeys, another band there. I think the boss of Radio X, Matt Devison, always brought up Devo, loves Arctic Monkeys, so they're always on there. But yeah, I think because of the kind of radio station that it is, the music on there aren't many songs that I would again skip. And this is where it ties in with this album, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, because I just wouldn't skip it. The only songs that I could skip on Radio X, I think, is when they play Jay-Z and Linkin Park, and I'm like, this doesn't belong on here. They even do put Eminem on there, but luckily I like Eminem, so I'm happy to keep that on. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's it's good. You know, you got Johnny Vaughan on there as well on Radio X. Again, some people don't like him. Don't really know why. He's quite a likeable guy. Toby Tarrant, who's on after Chris Moores each day. People can't stand him. Chris Tarrant's son. And that's the only reason that everyone slates him. That's the only reason you're famous is because your dad, he started on Capital, you went on Capital, you've come on to Radio X, and you're a ginger-headed this and a ginger-headed that. I think he's great. He's hilarious. But if you can't stand someone who, you know, you've technically got to listen to or hear in between songs that you really like, it's hard to listen to the radio. But yeah, when it comes to things like Capital and Kiss and all that, you know, I like some of the songs. Chart music these days is absolutely whack. I can't stand some of the stuff that's out and about at the moment. You know, Nicki Minaj, Ice Spice. I just don't know what it is. Justin Bieber, it's just not my kind of music. Ed Sheeran is all right.
It's why the independent scene is so much more interesting to look at. It's why I do this, because I can look at the charts and go, oh, nothing has changed. It's all the same people.
Yeah.
The occasional like one or two that come in and you go, oh, that's actually not too bad.
Yeah, some of them are okay. You know, like Coldplay. Coldplay were always on Radio X.
I quite like Coldplay.
They're all right. Quite a few of their songs. Again, that they play, all the ones they play on Radio X. I like. Paradise is pretty good. Viva
ones.
La Vida.
The earlier ones.
Even the one where they're all apes. That's quite a good one. I think that was number one for a few weeks. But yeah, when you're playing your rap stuff like H and all that, it's really not my thing. You know, get the Buzzcocks back to number one or something. He's dead, obviously, thingy, Pete. But yeah, just bands like that. You know, it's the thing we're lucky with is that because of sort of the like people like me and you, we listen to albums, and therefore bands like Foo Fighters, Liam, Noel's stuff, Arctic Monkeys, the Lathams, they will 9 times out of 10, all those, when they release an album, they'll get number one album. It usually happens. So that's where we're quite lucky. Whereas, you know, it's your Taylor Swifts and all that, they're going to get number one, but because of the influence that we have from these people on buying albums, buy the album, stream the single, whatever, buy the album, we all still do it, and because of that, you know, it works really well, and they get number ones.
Yeah,
it's something to be glad about. You know, the Libertines, they're back soon, their album comes out. Green Day released their album
Saviours, that was the other day,
on Friday. That's going to get number one. Yeah. I'm certain it will do. Billy Joe, Millwall fan, by the way, American.
We'll get to that.
You've already seen it. I like that.
Well, there's so many influences out there, both on your music, on Oasis music. But what was the influence that started you off with Oasis themselves? Like going back, we've looked forward to what they could do. We'll bring it back and be like, where is it that Oasis, the journey you've had with Oasis, started?
Annoyingly, but naturally, it was Wonderwall and Don't Look Back in Anger,
as it usually is.
Yeah, for everyone. But you know, it come about, and they were always about you heard them wherever. You know, I grew up on an estate with a social club that, like, you know, we used to go down quite a lot, and I've got musical influences from everywhere. A guy in particular, Mickey Clark, was like the resident DJ in there. And, you know, he knows everyone in there, and he always plays music for them. He always done that. And when I was growing up, there was like a group of people that are now, they were, where I am now, my age. They were all like 24, 25. And back then, like 2010, they were listening to Oasis, and he'd play songs for them. And it would normally be, Don't Look Back in Anger, Wonderwall, Champagne Supernova, things like that. So I always knew about Oasis, but in school didn't really listen to them too much. I was more, I listened to Devlin, if you've heard of Devlin.
I believe I have.
Yeah, he's a UK rapper. But that at the time, you know, when we was at school, I grew up in the dubstep era at school. You know, Skrillex and all of that, and I did listen to that. And nowadays, I can still hear it and be like, yeah, you know, back at school, that's just a memory for me. But at the same time, I was listening to the Smiths and the Buzzcocks, because when I was going to play football, going to play golf, my dad that was what was on in the car. The Psychedelic Furs, a Rogue One, don't know if you heard of them, the Stylistics.
A lot of these names I'm not recognising.
Psychedelic Furs are very similar. It's the song. The songs that they done is in the name. Psychedelic, it's psychedelia stuff. The Stylistics completely different. They're 4. It was originally 5, went down to 4. Older black men that were done really like deep soul music. But that was what I grew up with. So I always had very much was used to listening to bands that were way out of my time. The Smiths were only around for like 4, 5, 6 years, something like that. So it was, I was listening to them when they were completely finished. Morrissey and Johnny Marr never going to get back together. So yeah, when it come down to Oasis, Liam was doing BDI. 2 great albums he brought out with it. 2 or 3? 2. I think it was just 2. But yeah, 2 unreal albums he brought out with BDI, which I really liked, but they flopped. They weren't any good. He done the opening ceremony at the Olympics with BDI. But yeah, everyone kind of knew it was Liam trying to do Oasis. I mean, it was pretty much all Oasis without Noel. Jem Archer and Andy Bell were both still in there playing, and it just didn't work. So yeah, Liam sort of spiraled out of control. So that was, again, I was very much aware of Liam and what he was doing. But you mentioned it earlier, Liam. I was listening. I wasn't quite in the catalogue of all the music yet. I'd started listening to Noel's stuff that he brought out, and originally, because Liam hadn't really done any of his solo stuff yet, I was right in with Noel's thing. Before, when I was playing football before a game, I'd always listen. Last song I'd listen to was AKA What a Life by Noel Gallagher. Absolute tune, like class song. Really simple, really effective. It was used. That song was used for the Soccer AM when they done the troops on tour thing. They'd like have all football fans, soldiers that are on tours, Afghanistan, things like that, and that was the backing music to all the pictures and stuff that they showed. So yeah, a really inspiring song. So yeah, I knew Noel's first album, and then yeah, Liam come out, done his first album, first solo album, number 1. Really good songs, all good songs on there. Again, a couple that I could skip through and just be like, nah.
Was his first album As You Were?
Yeah, because all of his album titles have come from something in particular. And I believe it was the first 2, were paintings.
And Wall of Glass was in there as well.
Wall of Glass is the single from it on the first one. Yeah, I think that was the first single he released from it. But yeah, really, really good song. But yeah, as I say, songs in there that I could skip and just be like, next song. But yeah, so it was kind of around 2017, 2018, 2019 when it first, Liam come about, and I was like, right, okay, I've got to now do a deep dive. I've got to go into the whole Oasis thing, and I did, and that was it. And I've not looked back since. It's always just been, right, Oasis. And I mean, it's really weird. I was on the train going to football the other week, going up to Sheffield, and I mentioned earlier that, I've pretty much had every single song of theirs downloaded on my phone. But a mate of mine was playing music through his phone whilst we was waiting to pull out of the station. And one come on, and I was just like, for about a minute, I said nothing. I was just listening to it, and I was just like, this is Liam's voice.
I know this from somewhere.
I'm sure this is Liam's voice, but it can't be. I said, because I'd have heard it. I'd have had it downloaded. And it was Bag It Up, which was on Dig Out Your Soul, I think. And I was like, I said to mate Russ, I said, is this Oasis? And he went, yeah. And I was like, how do I not know this? And he said, it's Dig Out Your Soul, Bag It Up. And I was just like, this is a tune. I was like, why did I not add this in, back when I was doing it, downloading all the songs and stuff for me to just listen to whenever. And it must have been one at the time that I didn't really like. I think another one that I've got to re-listen to is Lord Don't Slow Me Down. I can't remember what album that's on, but it's not in my downloaded songs, and I can only assume at the time I didn't really like it. But the fact that of all 6 albums, I've got about 95% of them downloaded probably shows that I do like all of them. But yeah, throughout all of them, I can skip some. I can just go, I don't need to listen to that right now, or I don't want to listen to that right now. It's not where I'm at.
Yeah. You mentioned a few times that you're an avid football player, but in your childhood.
Yes.
But then you also are an avid football goer or watcher.
Yeah.
When was the Sheffield thing? Literally like the other week, or?
Yeah, bloody hell, when was it? Was it in December? I think it was in December. Might have even been November. I can't remember now. It all falls into one. I was at football yesterday. Went and watched Millwall QPR. At QPR, we lost 2-0. Wasn't good. But I've. Football definitely has musical influences. I mean,
Nolan and Liam are famously Man City fans.
They are, and now Noel is. I don't know if he's still on the board. He said years ago that he was on the board. Back in like the late 90s. There's a really famous interview where they was just like, you've got number 1 and you're winning the wars, and he went, I've got 2 Rolls Royces, I've got a Rolex, I've got however many £1 million in the bank. I'm on the board of directors at Manchester City Football Club, and he went, is it enough? No, I want more. But that just shows that's where it first started. He was always a Man City fan. They grew up in Burnage, not too far from Main Road. They done Main Road, and then Main Road got knocked down. Man City moved to the Etihad, and now they've both played there. So yeah, it's football's massive. Every I think almost everyone. I get what. Do I get why? I don't think I do get why. Actually, that'd be the wrong thing. I don't get why someone wouldn't like football, just because it's almost like sacrilege in England, in almost the UK, I guess. But I guess it's what and who you grow up with. If you've got parents that aren't in the football, or brothers or sisters that aren't in the football, or even friends that aren't in the football, you're not going to go down that road. But yeah, my dad did. My dad's actually a Chelsea fan. I took a different path. Thing is with football, like, it's expensive. It's a very expensive hobby. And Chelsea, I mean, my dad supported Chelsea all his life. He's from Wandsworth. He's from Clapham. And he done the same thing, because his brother and his dad were Fulham fans. But he started going to Chelsea, and so that was that. So he was a Chelsea fan. My mum, as a kid, was a Liverpool fan, but that was only because they were good. That was the only reason.
It's the only reason my dad's a Man U fan. I don't know why he was. He just kept saying, "Oh yeah, I like Man U. I'll watch a Man U game."
I mean, yeah, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. I mean, Man United were the best. I mean, when Noel and Liam were growing up, Man City weren't a very good team. They weren't that good. When I grew up, Chelsea were probably one of the best teams, along with United. They were around the same time. But yeah, so I could only ever go like once a year, and it would literally be like one of our Christmas presents would be tickets, like the FA Cup 3rd round or 4th round, which is always after. It's always in the new year. And I went and watched Chelsea play like Macclesfield, and I was like, who are Macclesfield?
Macclesfield Town.
Yeah, and
I think thing about them.
Chelsea won like 6-0 or something. Funnily enough, I watched Chelsea QPR. That was like another 6-0. But these were always FA Cup 3rd and 4th rounds. Anyway, yeah, I started secondary school, and two people. One of them lived around the corner, literally on the same like sort of road, as it were. I went to school with his stepson. But he was, Alan, he's a Millwall fan, and he bought James, my friend who I went to school with, he bought him a season ticket. It was £50 for the year. for the whole, that got you 23 games of football. Whereas, it would cost like my dad £50 just for his ticket for the Chelsea game. Then he's got to pay out for 3 others, for like both my brothers and that. So you could see where it was already going in that sort of direction. This was Championship football versus Premiership football, and at the time I just liked football, so I was going to watch it because I was like, yeah, why not? So yeah, I'd go with him on a Saturday, and then another friend of mine, Harvey, his dad's done like, I'd never heard of it before, but he'd done food critiquing for stadium food, and he was doing it at Millwall, and he'd get a free ticket on a Tuesday night. But Harvey's dad and Harvey both had season tickets anyway, so they was like, look, I'll be going up to try a burger and chips and let them know how bad it is. But because of that, I get a free ticket. So do you want to come? So I was going to Millwall on a Tuesday and a Saturday, and that was kind of it. So yeah, when I was at school, everyone was just like, there were no Millwall fans at school, in Sussex. Nobody was a Millwall fan. You had Brighton fans, Palace fans, but mainly you had Arsenal, Chelsea, and then again, for some reason, Man United and Liverpool. They'd never gone past the bloody Watford gap. So why they were supported them, I'll never know, but they did, and that's fair enough. But yeah, so I went down the path, not much taken, and sort of, people started saying to me, you can't support both. I was like, fine, I support Millwall. That was it, and I just like the ties were cut. I was never going to Chelsea, and that was it. And yeah, now I've been to, I think, I don't know how many games. I've been to a lot of grounds. Up and down the country. I've stayed in Middlesbrough for a whole weekend for a game. I've stayed in Blackpool for a whole weekend for a game. I've gone to Bournemouth, Sheffield. My first away game was Rotherham. Like, you don't go to Rotherham unless you're going to watch football. But yeah, it's just, now football is, I call it my hobby, because it's apart from collecting shoes and clothes, which again is massive musical influence, football is the only other thing I do apart from working.
Which is everything else.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you have to work to be able to enjoy the luxuries, and the luxuries for me. I mean, I've got a house and a mortgage with Laura, which is fantastic. We're saving up to get married. Happy days. But when it comes to just letting out steam, it's going to football, and luckily, I've got massively got the social side to it. We have a good 3-4 hours of drinking beforehand. If it's a 12 o'clock kickoff, I'm out the door at like 6-7 o'clock in the morning. If it's a 3 o'clock kickoff, I'm probably still out the door about 8 or 9 o'clock. Whether it's going and having pie and mash first, then going to the pub. Like I say, the Middlesbrough game, I left Edenbridge at 12 o'clock on a Friday afternoon and got back into Edenbridge at 9 o'clock on the Sunday night. I was battered, but it was great. And we lost, but I had a good time with my pals. But yeah, musically,
that's what it's all about, isn't it? Really,
precisely. Yeah. It's weird because we're all different ages. I'm the youngest. Well, now both my brothers come. They're now the youngest, but as the original sort of group, I'm the youngest, and the oldest guy's in his 70s. There's a proper eclectic to us and who we are. Yeah, that's the enjoyable part of it. And again, music does kind of come back to it, because the guy that's going to be my best man, Danny. It's nuts, but he absolutely lives and breathes country music. I can't stand country music. I hate it. In fact, it's just not my thing. But he really likes it, and that's absolutely fine. But he does also like Oasis, and he's into the music that I'm into as well. But he is mainly a country music man. He went to see Bruce Springsteen at Hyde Park.
Oh, sweet.
And he had a great time. But naturally, he loves Luke Combs like he's his brother. But yeah, everyone's got different musical influences. Another guy, Roy, done a few years in the Navy. He absolutely loves Joy Division. And I'm like, everyone else is like, what a load of rubbish. I'm like, no, Joy Division is class. I haven't even mentioned them yet, but Joy Division, another band, so good. Not around, not about for very long, because Ian Curtis killed himself. Rest in peace. But, from that, we got New Order, which again is such a good band. And they've gone off and done different things.
Well, I was going to mention like Radiohead as well. They might be in there.
Yeah, Radiohead. Yeah, Just, Creep, 2 absolutely great songs. Yeah. But yeah, there's loads. But those kinds of bands are, I only know them, not so much Joy Division. I mean, they've only got like one song that plays on Radio X, which is Lovewell Terrace Park, which probably, if you know who Joy Division are, that's the only reason you know them, is for Lovewell Terrace Park. But if you do a deep dive into what, they do, Shadow Play, Dead Souls, Transmission, absolutely unreal tunes. Really, really good songs. But if it's not your thing, then, I'd completely understand it, because it is very funky. Laura can't stand it. She's like, what is this? This is not a good song. But the background to it, if you watch, like, there's a couple films out there, I think one's a documentary and one's a film, and it's all about Ian Curtis and his life, and how he just dealt with depression all his life, cheated, I think he was married with a kid, cheated on her with someone else, and just hated his life, but he was iconic. for the music he was putting out there. He had epilepsy, and it just took over. I mean, there's a famous thing out there where he'd done a song and he was just finishing it, and all of a sudden he just had an epileptic fit on stage and was just like shaking on stage on the floor, just, you know, and it was really bad. But during all of that, people who were meant to be fans were throwing bottles and stuff at him because they were just like, what is this? Like, this weirdo just rolling around on the floor. But yeah, as I say, from that, we've now got New Order, and they've got some really, really good songs out too. True Faith, classic. But yeah, and they've done one of the England like songs that's renowned with England football fans.
I guess it's the same with Oasis, because as much as they split up in the mid-2000s and went their own ways, much like Joy Division and New Order, you now have Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds and Liam Gallagher solo act. So you've gained the silver lining of two very good artists in their own sort of in their own development, but they all stem from the original Oasis.
The original, which is Oasis. Yeah, definitely. You know, and like I said earlier, they're doing so many different things. Noel's gone on his, like, on one side of the coin with, you know, the astrological psychedelic-y stuff, which Liam just taunted and didn't like. But then Noel's new stuff that's coming out, Liam's actually said, yeah, I quite like it, it's a good song. He's not afraid to say that. Noel doesn't say anything about Liam's music, but there are so many different ones, you know, Wall of Glass to Paper Crowns to Shockwave, The River. They're all such different sort of vibes and songs. And, you know, this one he's just done with John Squire, which they're putting a whole album together, which is going to be so good. But yeah, Just Another Rainbow, and he literally sings the colours of the rainbow in it. And it's just something that you wouldn't expect, but he's done it, and it sounds like a Stone Roses song. I mean, arguably Ian Brown's not a good singer. You know, I mean, people can't stand his when he does things apparently live because he has no band. People just say it's just like a karaoke. He's just singing his own songs. I can get it. I can understand it. But, you know, when I was at the Stone Roses gig, it was nuts. It was like, it just went off like nothing I've ever seen. The flares and pyros and things were so good. But yeah, again, Ian Brown went off and done his own thing, you know, and Fear, which is, it depends how you want to say it, Fear, Fear. Really, really, really good song. But, you know, you wouldn't have got that if the Stone Roses didn't split up. They come back together again because, you know, they still had some music that they wanted to put out there that they'd had written. And so we got a few more good songs. Beautiful Thing, really good song, you know, but it's never going to be a Waterfall or I Want to Be Adored. But yeah, I think we're lucky like that. And as I say, what Liam's doing now, I literally read on the way over here, actually, Noel's putting out an acoustic album. He's putting together an acoustic album as we speak because, quote unquote, it's what the fans want. It's going to be different. It's going to be, you know...
Times are changing, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, any time that, you know, there's some tours that Oasis done where Liam would go off, and because he's so raspy and his voice is so deep and husky when he sings, Liam would have to go off and have a bit of a break in that. And Noel would sit there with an acoustic guitar and sit on basically a bar stool and sing some songs of his own. You know, The Master Plan, really good song. But yeah, it was just, it's different to what Oasis were. So, you know, they had to pick and choose when they done it. You know, off the top of my head, I don't think they done it at Wembley and Main Road, but it would never have worked. You know, arena and stadium tours like that, you know what the fans want to see, especially back then. And at the time, it was just... It was just a whole different vibe. You know, the football scene was coming back up again after a bit of a dip in the 90s, I'd say. And yeah, so in the early 2000s and that, it was massive, and people going to gigs was coming back up again, was being relived.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is. I am glad, as I say, that they are doing their own thing, because what they're creating is just really, really good stuff.
Yeah. And on this on one final bit, I will say, because you've done very well at getting through my questions, that psychedelia you were talking about in some of Noel's work, and the sort of unique setting of Liam's work as well, they all sort of come back to how you say that Standing on the Shoulder of Giants is its own. It's so different to what they were doing before,
Yeah.
and it's so unique and idiosyncratic in its own way. Like, what do you think its place in history is, both in Oasis's general life and yours?
I don't think it would never be spoken about much by Liam or Noel. You know, I think it's always going to be about, you know, like right now we got definitely maybe 30th anniversary coming up. They're never going to do a Standing on the Shoulder of Giants 30th anniversary. It's just not going to happen. But yeah, this was the first sort of parts where, as you say, we started seeing a bit of a difference. You know, Noel putting his vocals on a bit more, but joining up with Liam on it, Liam playing the guitar. It was very different for them. I don't think it's going to be a game changer. At the time, it was probably just it was big. Yes, our album's made number one again, but now they just look and go, it was just another number one album, wasn't it? Like double platinum. Who, you know, I've got them for hours and hours and hours in my back pocket. I just haven't put them out there yet. So I don't think it's going to bother them too much. For me, it is what music is about for me, and it's the differences, you know, from listening to Nirvana, for example, or Pearl Jam, like that, even to an Oasis song is so much different. But Oasis have some of those songs, not so much on this album, I'd say. Where Did It All Go Wrong's quite heavy, deep guitar. Yeah. But yeah, and then you go to Sunday Morning Call, which is just so mellow and chilled out. And, you know, Who Feels Love would never have thought they'd put an Indian sort of mix into any of their songs, but they did, and it worked, and it was really good. So yeah, for me, it's always going to be one that I could sit and listen to every single song. I could put it in my CD player, go and throw darts for the whole 50 minutes, and go and do it again 2 days later. Whereas, yeah, I don't think I'd really put on. There aren't many others I would. I think the Master Plan as an album, I think I could, because of the B-sides and how a lot of the B-sides were just better in a way, but they were B-sides because, you know, Noel and Leah, well, Noel in particular, knew they were going to be big hits. Knew that they were, so as I say, yeah, Wonderwall and Don't Look Back in Anger were massive. But, you know, like Listen Up is an unbelievable song. Never got the recognition it deserved. It's just all about Liam's voice on it, and I like. It's probably one of my favourite Oasis songs, definitely up there with Roll It Over between those two. But yeah, and Gas Panic's iconic as well. Is this what I mean? I can sit here, I can just reading through the whole thing, but it's even though there's no vocals on Fucking in the Bushes, it's iconic for the gig scene, and what they do. I don't know whether anyone else uses it as like I wouldn't call it a warm-up song, but it's the song that everyone knows.
The intro.
Right, Liam's coming on in a minute. Jerry Cinnamon has I don't actually know what the song is, but it's not the Bee Gees, but na 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 na. and everyone goes, Jerry Cinnamon, and it's like, right, okay, this is, we're gonna sing this, and then Jerry's gonna come out, and it's like, the adrenaline rush you get from it is like nothing. I don't know how else to like describe it. It's different to football, it playing and watching, because it sounds silly, but you know what you're about to hear. You know what's about to happen. Whereas 90 minutes of football, you don't know what's going to happen. But you've got a pretty good guess at what's going to happen at a gig that you're at. And, you know, it's not very often that anything goes wrong. I mean, it does happen. Things like, you know, like Green Day recently, when they was doing something for Radio X, and 5 minutes before everyone was about to go in, they cancelled because Billy Joe was ill. And they just didn't do it. But the night before, he was at this little bar in Covent Garden singing like mad. Or you know, when Oasis, what would have been their last gig out in France, you know, all the people there waiting for it to start. But yeah, actually it didn't happen because Liam wanted to put a guitar around Noel's head. And Noel got in his car with his chauffeur and left. And that was that. And yeah. I don't know, I guess that's probably a good point to end it on, because that was the end of Oasis, and I don't think we'll see them again. I'd like to see them in on tour or at a gig, anything. But yeah, I always said I would give a limb to see them. I'm not so sure I would now, just because of what they're doing separately. What they're doing separately is really good. So, that is my album, I guess. Standing on the Shoulder of Giants.
Stunning. You wrapped that up for me, to be honest. I don't need to add any more details. You did that for me brilliantly.
You're welcome.
Stunning. Well, thank you very much. That was brilliant.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
I'm huge into Oasis anyway. You've actually inspired me to go and look into their back catalogue a bit more, because some of them you mentioned I've not heard of.
Yeah, do it. So, just you can go through just like 1 to 6, and it's one of those things. You'll probably find that you're not going to want to listen to, the nigh on 100 songs that they have out there. But if you wanted to dedicate some time to it, you could sit there and realistically, and definitely maybe you could skip through a few of them, like I would, and which was why it would never be the album I choose. But yeah, just there's so many things out there. But then it spits out as well, because as I say, you get B-sides from the master plan, which I could sit there and you could go through all 6 albums and CDs, but then the moment you put master plan, it's like, oh, this is actually on this album, but I can listen to this again. And then you get to listen to live albums, Familiar to Millions tour. It all just really gels into one. But as I say, some songs can be skipped in my opinion,
but not in that one.
But not in this album. Definitely not.
Real. Well, thank you very much.
Oh man, thanks mate.
Brilliant. I'll return you to your whoever's downstairs.
Yes, the fiancée. We never call each other that. We don't. Honestly, we really don't.